All right, guys. So let's keep going here. Um, we were about to jump onto step number, or we're still step number 3. So we have just created this settings file. Now we just need to edit it, right? So we were able to run these commands, and we understand that we created this file using the echo command. So now we just need to copy the code from in steps 4 to 6 in your connection instructions between. Okay. So if we go back here to our code artifact, we need to copy this, and we need to copy it on the XML file, right? XML. Okay. So how do we open it? We'll do a nano, and if we do a okay. Okay, so we have just copied it. Now it says, what are the coding steps 4, 5, and 6 saying? The code snippets define repository URLs, authentication details, and other settings so that Maven can correctly work with CodeArtifact to fetch and store your project's dependencies. Let's break down each section. The server section is where you store your access details to the repositories you connected with your web app project. In this example, you've added your authentication token to access the local network packages repositories you've set up with CodeArtifact. The profile section is where you write a rulebook on when Maven should use which repository, a rulebook. We only have one package repository in this project, so our profiles section is more straightforward than other projects that might be pulling from multiple repositories. We only have one package repository in this project, so our profile section is more straightforward than price. Maybe okay. Our profile section is telling Maven to go to the next word package repository to find tools packages needed to build. Okay. Your Java web app. The mirror section sets up backup locations that Maven can check if it can find what it needs in the first local repository it goes to. You might notice that the backup location we've set is network packages again. This means that for any repository requests denotated by the asterisk, Maven will redirect those requests to the network packages repository as it is our only local repository. It might seem a bit redundant now, but mirrors are great in complex scenarios, and it's a great fallback option to set up from the start. Okay. Okay, so now we have to copy this, right? Okay, so it looks like we've copied everything. So now we're gonna exit, and we're gonna type yes, and file name to write. Okay. So if we do a cat, okay, so it looks like we've successfully added those commands. Okay, so if we go back here, right, it looks like that looks right. Okay, and now they want us to take a screenshot of it, so we can just actually do this right here and do that. I connected my web app project via Visual Studio. VS Code to CodeArtifact. So that it stores all dependencies I need for my app to work correctly. What does settings XML do? Settings XML is a file that is necessary for CodeArtifact to save, restore our dependencies and allowing our application to fetch to explain the code you put into settings. Okay, the snippets of code indicate where is that code artifact will be retrieving the repository from the server. Okay guys, so we are finally on step number 4. Let's keep going here. Okay, test your CodeArtifact connection via VS Code. Compile your application using this command. I wonder if I could run this command on Visual Studio Code. Oh, it looks like it worked. Okay, so while it's doing its thing, what does compiling mean? I think most of us understand what compiling means, but let's read it here. Compiling is like translating your project's code into a language that computers can understand and run. When you compile your project, you're making sure everything is set up and ready to turn into a working app. Break down this command to me. Okay, Maven, it's running the Maven tool. -s settings XML and use the specific settings from settings. Okay, and then compile is to compile. Okay, pretty self-explanatory. Now check your network packages repository. Whoa, there are pages and pages of packages. What's happening here? When your project was being built, Maven successfully fetched all the tools and materials your web app needs. These were all downloaded from the upstream repository or Maven Central repository and are now available as a copy inside CodeArtifact. So let's check it out. So if we go back here to let's go to our EC2 instance. Actually, not EC2 instance. We're going to go to CodeArtifact. Yes, CodeArtifact repositories, and right, we have our local repository, and then we have our upstream, right? So if we go to there it is. Okay, so we're able to see that. And if we want to see the other, our next work repository, we should have them here as well. Right. Okay, so we're making progress. Okay. Don't see any packages in your repository. Totally normal to run into this error. We talked. Okay, so we're seeing it, so we should be good. So now let's take a screenshot of that, and we'll do that here. Save as. And so compiling means translating code into binary to make sure what is trying to do. Which repository did you check after compiling your web app? What did you see after compiling? I checked both the next work repository and the Maven. What is it called, guys? Maven Central Store. Repository. Okay, so number 5. This should be our last step. So this might be our last video here, but let's see how it goes. Set up an IAM policy for using CodeArtifact. Create a new AWS IAM policy. Use the JSON policy code below. Okay. Why are we creating an IAM policy? Other DevOps services like AWS code pipeline and your development environments need access to the packages stored in CodeArtifact, but they don't have access by default. You'll be using these other services later on these DevOps areas, so you'll want to grant them access. Okay, so what we're going to do is what we were trying to do earlier, right? So we'll go to users. We're gonna give, I don't know, do we need a new user? No, just a policy. So actually we'll do policies, and we'll create here a new policy. Should we select CodeArtifact here? Maybe, right? Yes, so let's do here CodeArtifact. But we're going to do JSON, so let's grab here the JSON data, and where are we going to copy that? I believe it's here. No, so actually do this. So this looks about right. So let's see if we can read this code. It says that we're going to allow these type of actions, right? Get authorization token, repository endpoint, and read from repository. So basically these are the rules that we're granting access, right, for. And then resource is going to be for all of our resources. And then the effect, there's another rule here that says allow, and this says for get service bearer token, resource any token, and a service name CodeArtifact. Okay, so let's see what it says here. So of course we got the version of the JSON language. We have all these statements that we're going to use or create, right? So we have two different ones, right? So when we say that we are allowing on effect, it says that we are allowing the actions with defining the action sections below this line. The alternative to this would have been denying the actions. Action, these are specific things that we're allowing the services to do, right? So we're going to use a special key to access CodeArtifact. Repository endpoint is the service can find the exact location URL of the code repository, and then it says here read from the repository. This service can read or download packages from CodeArtifact. Great. Now when it says when we put an asterisk, it means that these permissions apply to all resources. In this case all CodeArtifact repositories. Okay, great. You might notice that there is a second statement in this policy. This statement gives a service temporary security credentials to interact with CodeArtifact. AWS services will then use these credentials, the credentials, to request an authorization token. So this is pretty much what I was looking to do earlier, right? So instead what we did is we created a security token, right, on the EC2 instance, and that's how we were able to access the CodeArtifact, right? In this case, what we're doing, we're creating this specific policy. We are making it so that it would automatically allow us or grant us access to the CodeArtifacts, to the CodeArtifact instance. Okay, I hope that's making sense. So now we are going to take a screenshot of that, and we'll do here. Bam. back here, and it says I also created them IAM policy because I want to grant a user, in this case myself, access to the code artifact resources remotely. Okay, this policy will allow us to communicate with any resource in code artifact to be able to pull repository dependencies for our application. Done. Okay, so let's go ahead and complete it. So we are going to hit next, and then we're going to give it a name here, and we're also going to do, don't forget to not add the dot or else you'll have an issue. Also, it looks like it's not allowing me to enter any dashes in between, so I'm just going to do CodeArtifact policy. Did it let me do that? It did let me do that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and create it, and it looks like we have it. So we do CodeArtifact. Here is our customized policy we have just created. Great. So nice work. We have our working repositories which can't be used by other services. Nice work. You completed today's project and set up your very own artifact repository with AWS CodeArtifact. Let's go. Okay, so what is AWS CodeArtifact and why is it useful? AWS CodeArtifact is a service that gives us the ability to not have to rely on public repositories. It is useful because we can now manage our dependencies locally without having to rely on internet on public repos. Kind of reworded the first part of the answer, but I think that's good. How did you use CodeArtifact in today's project? We created two repos, and we created a domain and two repositories for our web app dependencies. What is one thing you didn't expect in this project? I did not expect having to create a access token to give myself access to the code artifact resources to be able to interact from VS Code. And how much did it take you? So it's 25 minutes, 30 takes. The project has taken about almost 2 hours, right guys? Done. So you don't need to delete, right? So don't forget guys, if you leave this running for so many days, you are going to get charged. So that's why I recommend deleting these resources after the completion of each project, then so that you don't get charged. Then when we start the next project, you can just recreate it. All right, and it's good practice because you're gonna go over everything that we've done so far, and you'll be able to remember those things in the future. Okay, so we'll go ahead and delete those. We'll go ahead and delete those repositories as well. Okay, so we'll do that, and that should be it. So I just wanted to conclude here this project guys with this little thing right here. So what is next? We need to gather all the necessary pieces to build our Java web application resource WAR file, which is where our app comes together. This is where AWS code build comes into play. Think of code build as your construction crew that takes all the materials, the dependencies from CodeArtifact, and assembles them to build your application. Nice. So it looks like we have just built the very first part of our CI/CD pipeline. Now we're going to get into the more technical or like more services that AWS provides, right, for creating this type of infrastructure. Really cool stuff, guys. Really cool. So what have we learned today? Okay, we've learned how to set up a code artifact domain and repository. You created a new domain and repository to securely store and manage the dependencies for your Java web app. Right? We've used Visual Studio and CodeArtifact. We were able to make that link between the two. We've also compiled our Java project using the settings from CodeArtifact, verifying that all dependencies were correctly fetched and utilized. Okay, and then finally we defined and applied IAM policies to grant secure access to the CodeArtifact repository, ensuring that only authorized services can interact with your stored dependencies. Now, when it comes to security, guys, if you're curious about the security aspect of cloud computing in general, these are little things that we as security engineers we need to like really think about, right? So how much access do we want to give a user to a specific, let's say, repository, right? So having these policies, you can define and you can restrict this access, right? And you can make your network, or in this case your infrastructure, more secure. So IAM policy is a really good way to really secure access to those resources, okay, from outsiders. So that is it, guys. We can hit mission accomplished, and now you'll be able to receive your PDF file that you can just showcase it to employers. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. I think I had a good time. We had a little bit of a challenge at the beginning, but we were able to figure it out. Honestly, I thought it would be a bit more complicated since it's a project that hasn't really been updated by this amazing team. But we were able to kind of go through it very smoothly. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys on the next one.